All right, guys. Welcome to the awesome Brian Weissman Q&A. It's Daniel with VintageMagic.com. I'm here in the background. Brian, how's it going?
It's going really well. I'm sorry you're not on camera this time.
What are you talking about?
Well, your voice is on camera. You're not looking into the camera.
All right, guys. So you
exactly.
know what?
It's got to be serious.
It's like my hair. What do you think? You guys, they're gonna be like. All right. So Brian is. Thank you, Brian, for spending some time talking about old school Magic life. There's gonna be some fun questions today. I will warn you that. So guys, you guys did a really great job. You guys on multiple forums gave me quite a bit of questions to go after. And ask Brian. Some of the questions are really long, so we're going to try to be as succinct and descriptive as possible. I will note that we will break this video multiple times because of the camera. It only holds about 17 minutes. You guys will notice that, and I will put the link below of every single question. But again, everybody in old school communities, in the Old School Magic for Life community, the Horde community, Old School Magic, another Old School Magic group in Europe. Lots of great questions. I want to thank you guys. Sorry if we were not able to get every question.
We can revisit this and maybe do another.
I mean, Brian, literally the amount of emails, messages, everything, it was over 100. So
a lot to do in one sitting.
Yeah, it's one sitting. All right, so let's get right into it, Brian. Let's do a little icebreaker.
Hit me.
Brian, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Let's just do the most important question. Brian.
Yes.
Brian, what do you think about Donald Trump, and did you vote for him as president?
Oh, good Lord. I said he wasn't going to even go there. Well, honestly, I'm hardly abashed in my opinions on this subject. I did not and would not vote for him in a million years. If he were the last candidate on earth, I wouldn't vote for him.
Are you talking to him or me?
Well, I'm talking to the audience.
The way you were saying, like, Donald, I'm not voting for you.
I campaigned actively against him and did everything I possibly could in terms of funding opposition campaign stuff, sending money to anti-Trump PACs, and advocating on behalf of his opponents. Obviously, my candidate of choice was Bernie Sanders.
Excellent choice.
I was very disappointed when Sanders didn't get the nomination, although I understand the way the process works, and I don't know, Hillary Clinton had too big of an entrenched advantage and was sort of the anointed one with regards to the election. So she was always the heir apparent, and it was kind of a pipe dream, honestly, that Sanders would ever win the nomination. But that didn't prevent me from campaigning for him and certainly sending him a lot of money. And if you support Bernie Sanders, you're probably not in the Donald Trump camp, and he's proven to be as loathsome, contemptible, incompetent, moronic, narcissistic, and disgusting as any person that had bothered to vet his past could have anticipated, times 10.
Times a million. Follow-up question, if Bernie Sanders was the nominee, do you think he would have won?
I think unequivocally he would have won. In fact, I think that the only person probably who could have given Trump's campaign enough potential opposition research would have been a candidate like Hillary Clinton. It just, based on the way the timing of that election was, it was an anti-establishment year. It was an anti-establishment cycle. And he was sort of at the risk of calling him a perfect candidate, but he was a perfect candidate with a perfect message for what the electorate wanted to hear in that election cycle. And his weird kind of quasi-populist message would not have resonated in other election cycles. It just happened to be that this was the year when people were really rejecting establishment government more than they had in the past. And because he was such an anti-establishment figure and he was running against Mrs. Career Establishment, it gave him enough credibility with people that were kind of in the middle, people who were disillusioned with government and disillusioned with the entire process. Yeah. But anyway,
yeah, that's, Brian, we could go on this topic for an hour, but
well, just to finish the thought, but Sanders was also had the same advantage of being, even though he was not a career politician, but he's been in government for a long time, but Sanders was likable and didn't have the same vulnerabilities that Clinton had as a candidate. And that was the only thing that made the election close. And she still won the popular vote by, as people know, by over 3 million. Trump managed to win the Electoral College on thinnest of margins, Sanders would not have lost the Electoral College, I think. I can confidently say that.
What do you guys think? You guys agree with Brian? This is a very good
It's
question.
a very controversial
Very
topic.
controversial question.
Not directly related to Magic.
If you guys see him at, by the way, side note, I've convinced Brian, you guys can thank me and shower with me with just, gifts and such. I've convinced Brian to basically go to GP Las Vegas 2018. What do you think about that, Brian?
I think it'll be really fun. I actually have a lot of friends of mine who are going to, so it didn't take a lot of convincing. I may have gone on my own accord.
Okay, fine. Guys, the gifts can still come. I'm just kidding. Just joking, guys. Brian, by the way, is founder of one of the founders of Grinding Gear Games, who created Path of Exile, the video game, the computer game.
Yeah.
And I think if you guys haven't played that before, check it out. What's the website for that?
www.pathofexile.com. Yeah. If you haven't heard of the game, it's an action RPG fashioned very much in the style of the Diablo series. And if you've ever played Diablos 1, 2, or 3, Path of Exile will be instantly familiar to you as a game. With the difference is that it's a completely free-to-play thing. There's no barrier to entry at all. You can just download it and play.
Excellent. All right. So next question. Andreas Cermak, which, by the way, Andreas is an old school player and a moderator for Old School Magic for Life.
Yeah,
he will actually be at GP Vegas 2018. Cool. And he's excited to play you. And he's main board at Energy Flux, Blood Moon. Just be prepared. I'm just kidding. 4 red elementals, everything. All right. So basically, what we got going on is his question was pretty obvious question. Brian, we have lots of Americans, let me get the grammar right here. Yeah. Lots of Americans going to NoobCom World Championship in Old School. I think they had 120 players this year for NoobCom 10. Would you be interested in playing next year? And talk to us more about that possibility.
I believe I actually received a formal invitation for NoobCon. I may have gotten that actually towards the tail end of last year, and I could be completely wrong about this and just mixing it up with something else. The prospect of flying all the way out to Europe to play in an old school tournament is really intriguing to me, and I would love to meet a lot of the people that I've corresponded with over the years about Magic and other topics in person. I think that would be really cool. My one point of reluctance, of course, and this relates to a sticking point.
Where's the card?
It's around here somewhere. But if people who have read my recent treatise on the subject know how I feel about the card Library of Alexandria. And I feel that the only thing that balances Library of Alexandria as a card in general, if you were to call the card balanced in any respect, is the fact that you can counteract it with 4 copies of Strip Mine. And for some reason that I still cannot comprehend, the NoobCon players, the Swedes and other Europeans, have decided that they want an environment where you have only 1 Strip Mine to counteract a single copy of Library of Alexandria. And given how often that card rears its head in games of eternal central rules and completely makes the game a blowout, a lopsided blowout, when people have access to 4 Strip Mines, I cannot for the life of me understand why people willingly subject themselves to a format where they only have 1 Strip Mine in their whole deck to counteract Library. And with that in mind, the idea of flying all the way out to Europe to play in a tournament where my opponents could just beat me on the strength of just having that card in their opening draw, and we barely even interact at that point other than me just losing and being pissed off the whole time, makes it feel a little bit less attractive. So with that in mind, I'm interested in attending, but with the large caveat that I am going to make every effort to make a case for either getting the Strip Mines unrestricted in that format or getting Library of Alexandria banned. And truthfully, I think I would prefer a format where Strip Mine is restricted and Library of Alexandria is banned. I think that would be a good compromise between the two ideas. But I think that if you're going to have a restricted Strip Mine, you cannot allow Library of Alexandria to be in the format. It's just too imbalanced and too broken.
All right, so I'm going to have to forward this to Magnus. Magnus, if you're watching this, Brian has started the conversation.
I've thrown down the proverbial gauntlet, and I intend to write a long essay about this subject.
Yeah, so we're going to have, so Brian wrote an essay about why 4 Strip Mines needs to happen. It was a very interesting, intriguing essay. and he will follow up with another essay, which we'll actually publish on the VintageMagic.com website. It will be about why banning library is necessary for the old school Magic format.
Not necessary, but becomes necessary
with the format.
If you want to have an environment where the strip mine is restricted. And I think that there are valid arguments for why, at least in the way that my perception of how old school Magic is played and enjoyed by people who attend NoobCon and people who founded the format, that they want it to be a more, I hesitate to use the word casual friendly. It's not necessarily a casual friendly format in the sense, because obviously by definition old school cannot be a casual friendly format because the barrier to entry is so high for the cards that are the best cards in the format. At the same time, the attitude that people take when they're actually playing the format is more kind of friendly. There's a camaraderie there. We're all going to get drunk together in a bar and play expensive cards from 25 years ago. But I think that Library of Alexandria that card's not a fun card to play against, and it's not a fun card to use. It's just a card that feels broken and abusive. And I get that they feel that running 4 strip mines is antithetical to the idea of having fun in the format. I want to be able to play my spells and stuff. But if you have 1 strip mine in your deck and your opponent plays a library, you're not going to play a game of Magic against them. They're just going to destroy you with it while you watch. And 4 or 5 turns into the game, they're going to have a full hand and you're going to have 2 cards in your hand and you've already lost. It may take a little while. You may feel like you're playing the game at that point, but all you're doing is playing into their hands. You're just losing for 10 turns. That's not fun. That just makes you feel helpless and you feel like you're playing a ridiculous format.
All right, good. This topic seems like we have to expand on this later on.
More to come.
More to come.
But I want to start the conversation about it.
Yeah, I think it's
honestly, just to put it into perspective, back in the day when we used to play for ante all the time. We played, I've talked about that before. And a thing that we commonly did when we played for ante, and often even in tournaments, we had a gentleman's agreement about the Library of Alexandria. We called it disarming. And we would make a mutual agreement before, and we all played with 4 strip mines. And then there was an era where we played with 8 strip mines when Tempest was printed. And then shortly, within maybe 2 or 3 months after Tempest was printed, strip mine was restricted after 1996 Nationals. At which point we played with 5 strip mines. We had 4 wastelands and 1 strip mine. Even in that environment, people would still disarm, where you would agree before the game began, we're just going to play the Library of Alexandria as an island.
Wow.
Yeah, and because the card is so dumb and imbalanced that people didn't want to play with it and they didn't want to win with it. The card is just so stupid. And we had 5 strip mines and a Chaos Orb as a way to kill it, although the Orb may have been banned by that point. It was banned somewhere in like 1995, I think.
All right, good history on that. All right, next question. For our friend Edwin Tracy, he says he knew you before.
The name's super familiar.
Yeah, he was from Mountain View or Chico, one of those places you were from before.
Yeah, I mean, we all look so different nowadays.
Yeah.
It would be hard for me to recognize him, but I'm sure maybe I'd recognize his voice.
All right, well, before that question, let's just do this question. This is a quicker question. Kramer Lawson asks, Coke or Pepsi?
Cherry Coke. If I had to rank the sodas.
Yes, go ahead.
Number 1 soda for me is Cherry Coke, easily the best. Followed by that is regular Pepsi, not cherry Pepsi. 3rd place, I'm going to go with probably Coke Classic. Or, well, I guess not called Coke Classic. Just whatever the current formulation of regular Coke is. This is not counting the diet sodas, of course. And then cherry Pepsi, 4th place for the top 4.
Do you not drink diet?
When I drink soda, predominantly diet soda. Yeah, just because the extra calories are,
right.
Why bother with it? Diet sodas have gotten so good at this point. Like the tech behind them is so advanced that you can get probably 90% of the enjoyment with none of the caloric drawback. So that new Coke Zero product is amazing, actually. Yeah. Zero sugar, whatever it's called.
All right, so last question for this is Edwin's question for this video. It will be, if the measure of the health of a format is diversity in archetypes and decks, then in your opinion, what is the healthiest Magic format or group of formats? And that's based off of measure of health of formats based on diversity in archetypes and decks. That's the measurement.
Well, I think honestly, the only thing that possibly disqualifies this format is because it doesn't necessarily include archetypes, because it has so much endemic diversity. But to me, the healthiest format, and the format that certainly includes the most fun, is Commander format, obviously. And of all the formats that I played, I've been playing Magic for 24 and a half years now. Commander is the only format that ever kind of brought me back to how I felt about Magic at the very beginning. The sense of individual ownership of the decks that you built, the sense of discovery, and the sense of having a deck that is uniquely yours, something that you created yourself, that's completely distinct and different from the decks that every other person is playing, and where you would obsess over every single card choice within the deck. You're never really fully satisfied with it. You take cards out, you put cards back in. You're on the fence about 3 or 4 cards that are sitting, kind of on the bubble in the deck. They're basically cards that you could take or leave. And whenever a new set comes out, you're always sort of assessing that set in the paradigm of what cards in this set will go into my Commander decks. It's not like you just look at it and say, what's the most powerful deck that you can build with 4 ofs that's going to work really well in Standard or Modern or whatever. And the fact that there's this eternal quality to Commander decks, that they utilize cards from the entire spectrum of the game. And there is certainly no consensus best deck either. And there's you sit down at a table. I don't play the game multiplayer that much. I play it more as a one-on-one thing. But I can play online on Magic. I can have 50 opponents and 50 different decks and probably 40 different commanders over that span of 50 games. That's the sign of a really healthy format to me, and certainly has tremendous diversity because it's never really felt solved. There's certainly cards that people understand are the best cards in the format, but how do you go about utilizing them and filling your deck out with the remaining 80 plus spells is hard to determine. So that would be my answer. It's Commander.
All right, guys, I'm going to cut off this video. Next part will be coming up. And thanks again for watching. Brian, thank you again.
Sure.